guys, welcome back to Hike Oregon, and thank you so much for 5,000 subscribers. I know I just filmed my 4,000 subscriber video, but you guys are so awesome, and all of a sudden 5,000 subscribers popped up. So now it's time for my Q&A video. I'm all bundled up because it's really cold out here, and we are here at McDowell Creek Park. This is where we're gonna do our Q&A. Let's get started. Chiller Kelly asks, how much money does someone have to spend on a basic hiking equipment, and what should it look like depending on the must-have items? How much should someone spend? Have to spend. Have to. I don't know if you're talking about day hiking or backpacking. I know you and I have talked about backpacking before, so I'm just gonna say backpacking. Because to day hike, you can get a decent bag and you can hike in tennis shoes that you already own. So really, you can get out day hiking for little to no money. As far as backpacking goes, I would say a good starting point would be like $300 to $400. And I'll link a video right here from Tim Watson. I just watched one of his really good videos about how to get like a basic gear setup for $350, which is amazing. So I'll link that video here, go check that out. I would say between $300, $400, maybe $500, you can get pretty decent gear and be good to go out on any sort of backpacking trip. Also, do you speak German or do you have some German connections? Yeah, ich spreche Deutsch. Thought you already knew that, but I speak German. My whole family is German. Everyone in my family lives in Germany. I was born in Germany. Yeah, everyone except my mom lives over there. So if I go there, I speak German to my family and my grandparents, and my dad and I talk on the phone in German as well. So yes, I speak German. So Micah Reskovic wants to know, have you ever considered trying ultra lone peaks for hiking? I know they're very popular with thru hikers. So just because something is popular with thru hikers does not mean that I will necessarily try it. I took one look at the ultras and I nearly threw up because they're so ugly. I'm sorry, they are so ugly. I cannot. The men's ones not so much, but the colors they come out for the women's ultras are just like clown shoes. I don't know, sorry, no offense, but like they're so horribly ugly. So that's obviously not the only reason I haven't worn them, but another reason why I haven't looked into the ultras is because they have zero drop, and for plantar fasciitis, which I have been, plagued with, you don't want to go below like the 5 millimeter. You also don't want to really go above 10, but you kind of want to stay in that 5 millimeter range. So yeah, I don't think ultras would be good for my feet, so I just have not tried them out. Lena Sessions wants to know, how did you come up with the idea to start the Hike Oregon business? Lena, I have known Lena, this is funny, I've known Lena since 2nd grade. It didn't necessarily start off as a business idea. I mainly wanted to create a resource for people because I was having trouble finding resources online about certain hikes. I would see certain hikes on like a map or in a guidebook, but then go research it more and find no information. And the guidebook that I use has like one picture of the hike. So, I kind of want, especially when I'm going out solo hiking, I want to know what the trail looks like, I want to know what the trailhead looks like, I want to know more information, and it just wasn't available for a lot of the hikes that I was doing. So I wanted to create a resource so that this was now available for other people, because I can't be the only one that has trouble finding resources like that. So that is why I created the Hike Oregon website, and then I kind of turned it into a business because I want to do it full time. And in order to hike and write about hiking and do that kind of stuff full time, I have to kind of think of it as a business and how to make money with it. So that's how it came about.
Brian Stutzman wants a pack capacity recommendation for 1 to 2 nights backpacking. Not super ultralight, and is 60 liters too much?
Yes, I would say 60 liters is too much for 1 to 2 nights. Even if you're not going ultralight, you don't need all that much for 1 to 2 nights. So I would say 50 liters is about right. I mean, I'm taking a 48 liter pack on the Pacific Crest Trail trip that I'm doing. So just as an example, you don't need that much stuff, especially if you're doing a 1 to 2 nighter, let's say in the summer when it's, you know, not too cold out. Obviously, if you're winter backpacking, that's another story. But even so, a 50 liter, I think is perfect.
Matthew Elmore wants to know how far you generally willing to drive for a day hike and a weekend trip.
So I used to have a rule for myself that I would not drive more than an hour to do less than 5 miles. And I held that rule for about 2.5 years, and then my foot started having problems, and that rule went right out the window because I had to do like 2-mile hikes. So I was driving, you know, quite a distance to do a 2 or 4 mile hike. I even drove almost 3 hours once to do a 4-mile hike, but that's really, really rare, and it has to be really spectacular for me to do that. Again, generally, I don't like to spend more time in the car than I'm gonna spend out in the woods, so that's kind of where I'm at with that. Again, unless it's super spectacular, or sometimes I'll link a couple shorter hikes together and not just go all that way for one short hike. So if there's a bunch of really short hikes in one area, I'll do that.
Bobby Harper says, the trails are getting crowded. Can you still go skinny dipping in Oregon without the hassle or gawkers?
Absolutely, you sure can. I don't know where everyone keeps getting this notion that it's crowded. Yes, some of the really popular trails are getting really crowded and more popular, but there are so many hikes that I go on where I never see a single person. Especially Oregon has so many like mountain lakes where you could go swim. You would never see anyone. So absolutely.
Red, White, and Blue 78 asks, have you ever been backpacking in Southern California?
I have. I have backpacked in Yosemite National Park with my dad. I think I was 16 or 17. And yeah, we did a couple nights in Yosemite. We did some backpacking around Lake Tahoe. And yeah, and then we went to Yosemite. So is that Southern California? I think that's Southern California. No, maybe not. Maybe it's like middle. Yeah, okay. Well, maybe it's not Southern, but I have backpacked in California.
Northwest Hiker says, how do you deal with stress on the trail during a backpacking trip or through hike? Have you ever felt overwhelmed or in a panic? What do you do to alleviate that?
I have never experienced stress on the trail, really. The stress for me comes preparing for a trip. So like preparing for my PCT trip coming up, definitely some stress goes into it. But once I'm on the actual trail, all that stress goes out the window. There's nothing you can do about it anyway. You're now in the woods, so why stress about it? I guess things could be stressful if like your gear fails or something like that. But even then, you know you're only a few days away from being able to get off trail and take care of that. So I would say if you feel stressed on the trail, I don't know, just try and let it go. Just, you know, think about it like you can't do anything about it anyway. I'm gonna just enjoy the time I have out here and enjoy the woods.
Edward Chen says, my question is, which hike in Oregon would you consider the most underrated?
That's a really hard one, and I haven't hiked, obviously, most of the trails in Oregon, but for me personally, most underrated, I think would have to be Park Meadow and that area. And then also Substitute Point. That is a hike that, like, whenever I mention it to hikers, like, no one's heard of it. I'm like, why? It's amazing. So that's probably one that's definitely underrated. I would say Park Meadow, people have heard of. Not very many people tend to go there because it's like a longer hike, but it has been more heard of than Substitute Point.
From Lost Hike, I noticed you have more and more subscribers in a short time. My question is, are you going to do the Q&A video every 1,000 subscribers, or do you think it's best to do every 2 or 3,000?
Right now it's still totally feasible for me to do every 1,000 subscribers. I mean, this has been the quickest time frame in between the 2 Q&A videos. But before this, it's been like at least 2 months or so in between the 1,000 subscribers. So even if it's like a week or 2, that's still totally feasible, I think, especially 2 or 3 weeks. If it gets like quicker than that, I would start doing it probably every 5,000 at first, and then probably every 10.
Alicia Shipley asks, what is your favorite movie, book, TV show?
Oh no. Favorite movie? I'm not a huge movie person, but one movie that always just kills me is Talladega Nights. I just love that movie, and I could watch it 1,000 times. I don't know why, I just love it. If you've seen that, shake and bake. Shake and bake. Favorite book? Ugh, that's really hard. Yeah, Sullivan, yeah. My Sullivan guidebooks. No, I've read some good books. I used to read a lot more books, but I don't really read books anymore. I just don't have time. By the time I'm going to bed, I'm like asleep in a minute. So if I think about a favorite book, I'll insert it. And then TV show, that comes and goes with what's on TV. I mean, we don't have cable or anything. But right now I'm really liking This Is Us. That's a really good TV show. I like stuff with like a lot of character development and really good acting. I'm not so much into like the sitcoms and that kind of silly stuff. I really like character development and good plot and stuff like that.
Bootyman72.
Bootyman!
He asks, how is the book going? Sonia Conrads also wants to know, when will you release your hiking book and how long did you work on it?
Bootyman Sonia asked about my book. It's coming along. Randy is helping me proofread all the stuff. So right now I'm in this process of making sure all the content that I have already written is good to go. And then I still have a few hikes to actually write about and then proofread those. And then once all the content is perfect, then I have to go through and pick 2 pictures to represent each hike. Once I have all that done, then I can put it into the book like publishing platform. So then I have to design my cover, do all the index, and do all of the foreword and all of that, and then put the writing and the pictures into the book format. And then once that's done, I will, I'll have them print one book for me to look over and see if there's any mistakes or any like formatting issues, then I can publish it. So I have a question for you guys about the book. Originally it was supposed to come out before last Christmas, so around the holidays. The layout of the book is kind of constructed around like the 52 hike challenge, in the sense that it's titled 52 hikes for 52 weeks in Oregon. So I hesitate to publish this book in like June, because it doesn't really make sense for a 1-year-long thing to come out in June and have it already be halfway through the year. Would you still purchase it? So that's my question. Comment down below if you would still purchase it if I released it in June, or do you think this would be a better thing to come out in like the late fall, early winter, so that it kind of goes into the new year, so that people can really utilize this for the new year and start like in January and go through the whole book that way. So let me know what you think. So it may come out mid-year. If not, I'll probably have a pre-sale in like October. So stay tuned.
Jamie Morton asks, do you plan on hiking every backpacking trail in Oregon?
Hiking trail in Oregon? I mean, they're pretty much the same thing. You can backpack on a hiking trail. I don't think that's really possible, honestly. I just don't think it's possible. I mean, I could live here a lifetime and still not hike all the trails in Oregon. There's just so many of them. And there's so many like hidden gems that aren't even in guidebooks or on maps or anything, that are trails, and I just don't think it's possible. I mean, I could try, but I mean, I'd like to hike as many of them as possible.
C. Joe wants to know, if you forget to sleep with your filter in a freezing weather condition, is there any way to tell if it's frozen and has been compromised?
If you think it might be frozen, just try to use it. And obviously, if nothing flows through, then it has obviously been frozen and the insides are frozen. Or like if the flow is like half of what it normally is, it's probably compromised. If you think it might be compromised, just make sure to use other water treatment methods. You know, either boil your water or put some of those Aquamira drops or something. Just maybe have some of those, or some of those iodine tablets. Maybe have some of those in your first aid kit or something, just in case you think that might happen. If you think you might be sleeping in freezing temperatures, just make sure to put it in your sleeping bag, and then you won't have to worry about it.
Leslie Gordon wants to know, what are your favorite moderate 3 to 5 day backpacking?
Well, the one that I would highly recommend would be the Three Sisters Loop, even though I haven't done it. I've done sections of it, and it's just all around absolutely fantastic. I would say that's more of a 3 to 4 day, depending on how many miles you want to hike a day. A longer one, oh goodness. I mean, you could make there's so many different loops that you can do in the Jefferson Wilderness, like starting at Stuffy Lake area, start there, and then from there you can go all the way to Marion Lake, you can go to Sanium Lake, you can like loop around just so many lakes. So you could actually go from there and make it a good 5-day backpacking trip if you wanted to. I think you can go from there all the way to Jefferson Park. I mean, you could really spend days in just that Jefferson Wilderness area. But if you're wanting to do like a specific loop, I just highly recommend the Three Sisters Loop.
Sean Park asks, do you have a trail name?
So I was given a trail name by my very first hiking partner. He was in the Army, and he, for some reason, just could not keep up with me, which really surprised me because he was in the Army. He was like fit and everything, you know. He's a huge guy, like over 6 foot. I would be like just so far ahead of him. So he gave me the trail name Turbo. So that's been my trail name up until now. It might change on the PCT. I'm open to change.
Rod Thier asks, what is the absolute best hike in Oregon?
That is very subjective, I think, because people like different types of hikes. Personally, I like mountain view hikes, so hiking up to a vista and then seeing amazing mountain views. That's my personal favorite. And then, you know, some people like high mountain lakes, some people like, you know, what I'm in right now, this green, beautiful forest with waterfalls and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's so subjective and really just hard to say. I could give examples. I think the best waterfall hike in Oregon is probably Silver Falls Loop. For views, I would personally say probably the Twins. I have really enjoyed that as far as views go. It's probably not the best, but I really enjoyed it. And for high mountain lakes, probably Green Lakes, huh? I would say Green Lakes is really great because you also get the mountain views and the lakes. You get a 2-in-1.
Jason from PNW Adventures and Gear Reviews asks, what are you doing mentally to prepare yourself for your upcoming section hike of Oregon?
I don't think I'm really doing anything mentally. I have been mentally prepared to hike this for 2 years now. I am just like overly excited. I think mentally I'm just a little worried that something is gonna go wrong because I've been so excited for this for 2 years. Like ever since I came off the PCT in summer of 2016, I was like, I am planning my next trip. Like from that day, I've been excited to hike again. So I am just so terrified that there's gonna be more fires or something is gonna go wrong to where I cannot do the trip, because that would be really devastational. Or even if it cut the trip half short, I would be absolutely devastated. So that's kind of mentally what I'm trying to get over. For now, I'm just really excited.
Holy cow. With all the burns in Oregon, how will that affect your PCT hike?
It shouldn't, actually, which I was a little worried about that too. So I recently read an article that Eli Boschetto wrote on his PCT Oregon website. I can link it here. I think he interviewed like people in the Forest Service, and he got really good reports of all the sections on the Oregon PCT that burned, and I was very happy to see that it really will not affect our hike at all, except that we won't be able to do the Eagle Creek alternate route, which is an alternate that most thru hikers do, just because it's so stunningly beautiful. But that is an area that got very, very, very burned and probably won't open for another few years. So that will remain closed. We'll just have to stay on the official PCT and end the trip that way instead of ending it on the Eagle Creek alternate. But other than that, shouldn't affect our trip.
Tina Hengen asks, I was watching some of your older videos. One of them was your emotional hike video in 2016. You talked about changing things in your life. What changes have you made since then?
So she is talking about my solo hike up Olali Mountain, and I'll link the video so you can go watch it if you have no idea what she's talking about. But I recorded the video on the last day of my little PCT suction hike that I did with my family, and I was very emotional because the trail really like changed me in that short amount of time. So I got emotional, and I basically said I wanted to change some things in my life. So that's a really great question. What I've changed is I have stopped wearing a full face of makeup. That is, I think, the biggest change that I've made in my life. I used to spend about an hour every morning putting on a full face of makeup, which meant getting up earlier for work and doing all that. I mean, my face looked flawless, but what is that to anyone? No one cared. At work, no one cares. I basically just put on mascara and walk out the door. So that has been a huge time saver. I get to sleep in and enjoy my life a little more. And my skin loves it too, by the way. What else have I changed? I think, especially when hiking, I think my mindset has changed a little bit in the sense that I used to just be all about crushing the miles and getting out there to do 10 to 15 mile hikes, and it wasn't worth anything unless it was big mileage and all of that. And I've definitely gone away from that a little more, and it's now more of embrace the experience. Today I drove an hour to do 2 miles. I would have never done that 3 years ago. So that has definitely also been a mindset change. Also just this hasn't necessarily changed because of that trip, but something that has changed recently in my life is also just making sure to spend time with your loved ones. Just making sure that you are investing your time into something that is meaningful to you. For example, in December, I thought my cat was dying. I neglected basically everything else. I didn't go Christmas shopping. I didn't write Christmas cards that I usually write to everyone. I just didn't do certain things that I normally would have done. But to me, it didn't matter because it was important for me to spend that time with my animal. And no one cared. Did anyone write me an angry message? Oh, I didn't get a Christmas card from you. You suck. No one did that. Absolutely no one cared that I didn't write a Christmas card. I mean, you have to think about life that way, I think. Life is so short and we get such a short amount of time. Making sure that the time you spend and invest is invested in something that's important to you and that will give you great satisfaction, make you happy, basically. Don't do stuff. I mean, everyone has to do stuff that makes them annoyed, like grocery shopping or laundry or whatever. You can't avoid that. But for example, picking between going on a hike or going to a social gathering or something. You know, does that social gathering really mean that much to you? Is it going to greatly impact your life? Probably not. Is going hiking instead going to greatly impact the rest of your week because you're going to be rejuvenated and got to spend time out in the woods? Probably. So you have to look at it that way. Those are some things that have changed in my life since that video was filmed. So thank you so much for asking that question. Thank you to everyone who asked questions. If you have questions for a future Q&A, you can comment them below. I keep track of all the questions people ask me in a little spreadsheet. So if you have something you want to ask me, personal, trail, or hiking related, just comment it below. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks again for 5,000 subscribers, and I'll catch you on the next adventure.